We talk. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. It's 8:01 p.m. Eastern Time in New York right now, which, of course, as everybody in New York knows, can mean only one thing, and that is that it's time for another episode of The Yard. In addition to broadcasting here with our Zoom channel, we're also being seen on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and a few other platforms simultaneously. And as I have mentioned, soon, God willing, we will be on 250,000 tablets in jails and prisons across the country. So we always mention that if there's some message you'd like to get out to folks, our brothers and sisters who are down right now, please keep that in mind and by all means do it. Aside from being my hometown, I just mentioned New York. New York is also home to one of the very worst places on the planet, and that is Rikers Island. While many of our guests have admitted that while they hated being incarcerated, they did admit that they received some job training or even an education, so it wasn't entirely bad. There's nothing redeeming about Rikers, however, unless you consider learning how to survive a knife fight is a skill worth knowing. I had the pleasure of spending some quality time at Rikers, and I'm hard pressed even to begin to tell you how awful that place is. It's a crumbling, dirty, corrupt, fetid, violent place where on any given day, hundreds and hundreds of guards call in sick. The jail is in complete chaos right now. 2 days ago, you may have read that the 12th inmate died this year at Rikers while in custody for no good reason. There's a great deal of support all over the place to shut Rikers down, including New York City's mayor. And yet it's still open. And it is vastly overcrowded, and infection spreads there like wildfire. Violence is a given, and sadistic guards take out their frustration on inmates every day. Listen, enough is enough. They should take giant steamrollers. They should be deployed to obliterate any trace of this malignant place. We need to shut down Rikers right now. But let's get back to The Yard. The Yard, of course, is a production of Commissary Club, which is the first social network for 70 million Americans with criminal record. My name is Richard Bronson. I am the founder and CEO of Commissary Club, as well as 70 Million Jobs, which is the national employment platform for folks with records. Tonight, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm happy to report that I'm joined by my good friend and teammate, the very exceptional Divine. Hey, D, how are you?
Peace, brother. Great to be here once again.
It's great to have you. Normally, Seth Sundberg, the NBA legend, who people really just can't stop talking about, he would be our third co-host. But we're sort of turning the tables because people have a thirst to learn more about Seth. So tonight, Seth's on the hot seat.
Hot seat.
Seth,
hot seat, baby.
Seth is our very, very special guest. And for those of you who may not be familiar with him, despite the acclaim he received playing in the NBA, on the LA Lakers with a young Kobe Bryant, Seth got in trouble with the IRS and spent several years in prison and jail, county jail, including a long stretch in solitary confinement. Now Seth is also one of our teammates and a dear friend and a brother and a great guy and a funny guy too. So it'll be great to chat with him. Tonight, our good friend and also teammate, Adrian Hatter, is having problems at her home where the power has gone out. Obviously, the Wi-Fi has gone out.
I know. I feel your pain, Adrian.
Yeah. Well, I don't think she can hear you, Seth. So
Just, she'll see the recording.
She'll see the recording. But we are very, very lucky that our own Amanda, who has pulled the strings in the past for us, she is on hand. And so I'm confident that the trains will arrive on time. So for the benefit of those who are unfamiliar with what we try to do here, this event is called The Yard, and in any prison, whatever type of prison, whatever security level in any state or city, The Yard is a place where inmates are let out, like feeding time at the zoo, sort of. They're let out every day, unless they're under solitary confinement, of course. And they can get some fresh air, and they can play, toss around a football or work out, lift some weights, but mostly they get a chance to hang out with their friends and just laugh and cry and argue and whatever people do when they get together. And it's a time, ultimately, that they can actually make believe that they're human beings that have a life. So it's a very, very special time. So our focus generally is on the experience that our guests have had while incarcerated. In Seth's case, because he's had a very interesting life, we want to make sure we talk about that as well. So we got a lot to talk about. So Seth, how are you tonight?
Good, Richard. It's good to see you in this situation. I definitely feel like, I'm under pressure right now.
Yeah, peace, Seth. I'm gonna get you, man. I got some things for you, boy.
I know. I'm like, oh, man.
So my advice is don't screw up, okay?
Yeah, no,
basically, that's the best wisdom I could give you.
Don't worry about it. I got all the answers. Don't worry. This is gonna be great. This is great.
Okay. Famous last words.
Exactly.
Right. We have our last week's guest. The very fabulous Lisa Troutman is joining us.
Lisa.
So thanks, Lisa. Lisa, we had a great time last week. She was one of my favorite guests. Her bird was also one of our guests.
Yeah, made a cameo.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much a cameo. I mean, the bird was very much
involved. Very much involved.
The bird had a speaking part.
Yes.
In our event last week. Pinky is here, which is always great to see, and our buddy Craig and a lot of our friends. So great to have you guys. All right. So let's get to it, Seth, okay?
All right.
Number one.
I didn't do it, no.
Yeah, that's what they all say. They all say it, Seth.
You did it. So
that's what they all say. It wasn't me.
Absolutely, 100% did it. 100%.
It wasn't me.
Good. You take ownership.
Absolutely.
The thing to remember about Seth, and I know him pretty well. I work with him closely. I've traveled with him. We've spent a lot of time. But his life is pretty much defined by one single attribute or trait. And that is that Seth is 7 feet 1 inch tall. He's the tallest person you have ever seen or stood next to, right?
Yep.
How is it being that tall, Seth? Let's just get that out of the way.
It's interesting. I hear that question a lot, and I don't know anything different. I've always been tall. So it's like my family's tall, everybody's tall in my family. Like, I'm not even the tallest person in my family, you know? So like, I got a grandfather who was 6'10", my uncle's 7'2", like,
wow.
Sisters in the 6 feet range, like, my brother's 6'5", like.
It's all in the genes, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not a surprise. I know I'm part of my family, but I haven't, I've always been taller than everybody else too. So it's kind of like, all right, it's just the way, from a young kid. So
so let me ask you,
I'm used to the circus.
There are people who are very, relatively short, who spend their life, looking up to people when they're talking to them. I'm going to say something politically incorrect as I'm talking about.
Oh, that's so surprising.
Somehow I'm going to do that. So I apologize in advance. So, and people say, well, they have a Napoleonic complex or shortness thing or something like that from looking up. Do you feel a certain superiority that you're always looking down on people?
No, and I wish I didn't have to, like, everybody goes, oh, if I look up to you, my neck hurts. And I'm like, well, what about my neck? My neck hurts too. Like,
I look down.
It's not meant to do that either. So no, my best friend is 5'7", and shout out to Phil. What's up, Phil?
Like an odd couple.
Yeah, but he was my point guard in high school. And, from then on, it was just like, all right,
Right, it's my man.
Figured out the rest of life. So, we definitely, it's definitely.
Was there one year in your puberty or adolescence where you shut up?
No, I know that happens to a lot of people. I started high school at 6'3", and I left at 7'1". So I grew 3 inches a year.
Wow.
So it was like,
are you still growing?
Yeah, but like wider rather than taller. Yeah, it's a problem. More apples in my diet I need.
So what did your height play in your extracurricular activity involving your incarceration? Did height have anything to do with that?
Whoa, wait! Can we wait till we got to get there?
That's an interesting question. First of all, I never heard of incarceration. Heard as like phrases extracurricular activity. I didn't know where you were going, D. I didn't know where you were going.
Yeah, it was a hobby.
Exactly. I had to throw that one in early.
Fine. Come on. Let's create some dramatic,
Yeah. Build up to it, Richard. Let's build up to it.
Yeah, exactly. So Seth, you played high school basketball. You were heavily recruited for college, right?
Yeah.
And where did you end up going to college for basketball?
I went to Hawaii. So I when I graduated high school, I was recognized as one of the best in the state, and et cetera, et cetera.
State of California.
State of California, yeah.
Wow.
And did a lot. Played in the in the All-Star game, for the state, and et cetera, et cetera. It was a lot of fun. But it was a lot of recruiting going on, things like that. And one of the things that's interesting that I'll just put out right now, that if anybody's got kids and they're always like, hey, I want my kid to be like so I skipped 2nd grade is where I'm going with this. I went from 1st grade to 3rd grade. They said, okay, I guess they said, hey, you're doing well. You don't even need to go through 2nd grade, go straight to the 3rd grade. And going back to the height thing, I was bigger than most kids, in 3rd grade already. So they're like, oh, let's just put them in there. But for sports, like that's not a great thing to do. So if anybody has kids that's thinking about doing that, and you want them to play a sport, don't do it.
So you were recruited, you accepted a scholarship at Hawaii. So you left Northern California to go to Hawaii to play. Did you love being in Hawaii?
Yeah, so I went to junior college first too. I don't even know if you know this. So I went to junior college from high school because I had back surgery when I was 16. I graduated at 16, had back surgery, and and it was a surgery that they weren't, like, the doctors weren't even sure like if I'd ever play again. And so it was like, okay, let's figure this out. And I ended up talking to a bunch of people. I talked to one guy who was a firefighter who was like, hell yeah, you're going to play basketball again. Like, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Et cetera, et cetera. But, it was a big deal. And so all the offers that I had at that time didn't, I couldn't go through with it because I'd have the surgery in the summertime. So,
junior college after 2 years.
So I went to junior college first at Kenyatta. Yep. Did well there. Had a great coach, great team. And then moved to Hawaii from there.
So you get to Hawaii. I would imagine you were like a big man on campus. I mean, aside from physically.
Literally.
You were somebody, hey, look at that. Who's that guy? Oh, he's the new center for the team. Yeah. Blah, 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 right? Is that?
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's interesting because Hawaii doesn't have any professional sports.
What?
there's no, think about it.
They
There's
were
no,
really
there's
thirsty
no,
for what you were doing.
right. There's no Honolulu
Right.
NBA team. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the college is a big deal for sure.
So I'm wondering, Seth, you're a very nice guy, you're one of the nicest guys I've ever met, in truth.
Love you too, Richard. Thanks.
I'm not one of the most
I
nicest.
don't know if that was a
guys you've ever
compliment
met.
or not, Seth.
Yeah, it was
He's
faint
just
praise.
pointing something out.
Right.
Okay.
So nice. So.
Thanks, you're really turning my head up. But let me ask you, did you, as a star athlete, inevitably, you must have felt very entitled. You were a VIP wherever you went. You didn't wait on lines to get in a bar. You had a special cafeteria you ate at, probably. You would look at a girl and she'd be ready to go out with you. All that stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's an interesting part of sports for sure.
Okay. You know where I'm going with this ultimately.
I do.
If it's valid.
Yeah.
But in any event, so you had a career at Hawaii, then you graduated, and tell us what happened next, specifically with the NBA.
So went to play with the Lakers. That was my first year there in '97.
Who was on the Lakers at the time?
Kobe was, it was the second year in the league. Derek Fisher was there, a bunch of guys.
How was it playing literally side by side with young Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, it was amazing. So the first year that, that I was there and it was a short stint, but while I was there, he wasn't playing much. He was just out of high school, and it's kind of like, whatever, but man, watching him play, was just like, I've never seen somebody jump so fast without like bending their knees. It was it was so
lifted off.
It was just gone.
They lift off.
Yeah, and one of the things about the NBA is
hyper thrust.
Everybody there is a monster. You know what I mean? Everybody's huge. It's such a different level from college to the NBA. It's like it's so much faster. Everybody's so much stronger. The guys that were 6'4", 6'5", now you got guys 6'10" doing the same things, and it's
fierce competition.
It's fierce for sure. Yeah.
So while I kid you mercilessly, Seth, about your career, but the truth is you are a professional athlete, and that is some rarefied shit that you were part of. And not many people get anywhere near what you've achieved.
Right.
So, I think that's pretty amazing. So you played for a couple of years, then you left the NBA, you played in Europe for a couple of years, which you really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then because of, you physically, you couldn't really continue, your back, et cetera. You retired from basketball, and then you always were involved with real estate. I know that. And you had a company that was a kind of a sales marketing company that was doing mortgages, right? And you were overseeing that. What happened there?
Well, so when I got done playing basketball, I left just because I knew my time in the NBA was coming to an end. Like the window that I was going to be able to get in there. I played for a little bit, bounced back and forth from Europe and so forth, and then when I realized like, hey, I'm getting older. I knew I didn't want to live in Europe, forever. I said, all right, I'm going to go, and retire from basketball, come back. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any, I didn't know what I was going to do next. I made some money playing basketball. I spent a lot of money playing basketball, and I knew if I kept spending at the same pace, that I was doing over the past years, that my income dries up, it's going to be a problem. So I was smart enough to okay, I need to protect some of this money for myself. And I bought a couple places in Las Vegas, a couple houses, and I didn't know what the hell I really didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and I just kind of was like, all right, let's see what this process, what happens in this. And, just found out I really liked the financing side of it. I like the number side of it. I like the debt side and equity and the whole thing that goes on there. And it was at a good time in the market. And so things went well from there. So I just said, okay, I'm gonna dig into this more. Got into that. And like I said, it was a good time in the market. I made more money in real estate than I did, playing basketball. And that kind of led, your next question is going to be, from a former professional athlete that's got a inflated ego for sure. What happens in that space.
Okay, so we're getting closer to your date with destiny. So you were managing this mortgage company and you had an idea, right, of how you could make a lot of money quickly.
Well, it started a little more insidiously than that. And I want to say this to the people that are down too right now, you to watch this, like the way I got involved with the shit that got me in trouble was very subtle. You know what I mean? Like I was doing mortgages, and I really didn't understand much about, how the financial system works. I had majored in economics in college and blah, blah, blah. But like figuring out kind of what happens in that space, and how it all works was really interesting to me. I was doing real estate. I bought some silver as a thing. I never bought any silver before. And I was like, why the hell is this currency and the other thing's currency? And then it kind of just led me down this path. And
of wheeling and dealing.
The proverbial rabbit hole.
Not even wheeling and dealing. Of going like,
the rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about, D.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, and there's a lot of people that are down right now that, that got into this shit, the same thing. You know what I mean? So I got involved with this whole sovereign citizens movement based on just,
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, this
I know all about it.
No, for sure. Everybody does. No, it was crazy.
Let me explain. Let's just take a moment here.
Set the stage for this, Richard.
I was in prison. There were a bunch in prison. There were a bunch of guys who believed in their heart of hearts that constitutionally they were not required to pay income tax or taxes of any kind.
Yeah,
Wesley Snipes. Oh,
yeah, for sure. He's the most famous one for sure.
He's a poster child.
So they didn't have to pay taxes, and they knew that was right, and they weren't going to pay taxes. And for a while, you get away with it, whatever. But eventually, they discover that the IRS looks askance on that interpretation of the Constitution and disagree.
Richard's being nice.
Yeah, for sure.
But the funniest thing though was how ultimately they all would contend that they were right. And despite the fact that they were serving like 10-year sentences and leading this miserable existence, but the fact that they believed that what they were doing was okay, it sort of gave them, they were all kind of above it all, principles, I guess, or whatever. But it was like, if you're so smart, what are you doing in prison for this?
Yeah, why are we wearing the same color clothes? I don't even know you. Like,
the information is so compelling.
So that's what I was saying before.
The way they describe it, the way they present it. I ran into many of them.
No, absolutely. It's a very slippery slope too, right? You think, okay, I was so against this stuff in the beginning, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I don't like, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta look more into this because this is like so nuts that I just can't like.
A vulture in eagle's clothing.
Yeah, for sure. But
I know them all, brother Brent. I know them all.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Seth, in your case, it wasn't just a function of not paying taxes that may have been owed. You actually filed a huge claim of what the IRS owed you.
Yeah, it makes sense. It totally makes sense.
Totally makes sense.
It
Not
makes
only
sense.
don't I have to pay, but you have to pay me.
Me.
You owe me.
You, Uncle Sam, owe me.
Exactly, for being tall. So how much did you, when
It's
you
all
filed
tax.
your-
I'm taxing you, Uncle Sam.
what was the amount that you claimed, that you filed, that you were due in a refund? How much was it?
A little over $5 million.
$5 million.
Thank
You
you.
just decided
I think
they owe me
$5,000,
$5 million.
50,000 mark.
And they're not going to know this.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here we go.
Here was my logic. Here was my
$5 million.
logic at the time. Here's my logic at the time. And I talked about this in prison on the yard a lot. So I was thinking, you know what? Like, this shit is just so kind of over here or over there or whatever. Like, how do you know what's true, what's not? I'm like, I've been looking at this stuff for a couple of years now. I know people, you know, it's just like, all right, let me just, the only way I'm gonna find out is to do it myself. Like, but here's the thing that I thought. I go, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? Oh, I'll get a frivolous filing notice. If it's wrong, I'll get a frivolous filing notice, and
Right.
it's $5,000
Correct
fine.
it, fix it, yeah.
I'll pay that, you know, and be done, and just wash my hands with it. It's
Let's
like,
just make it clear that they did send you the $5 million.
yeah. So I said, okay, the
Yo!
other side, the
Yo,
other side
I
is
was doing the wrong crime, Seth.
the other side is that, okay, I'm right. This is right, and I'm right.
right,
And,
yeah.
you know, they'll send me the check.
You assert your rightness.
Exactly. And I'll
You
go
were right
on,
to be
I'll do
right.
this. I'll do this for the rest of my life, and I'll just have figured out the financial system, and like, I'm good.
That's
and I'm
it.
done, you know, and
You're
now
a
I'm
genius.
gonna make the world a better place. And,
You're a modern day Elon Musk.
exactly.
You're a modern day, Warren Buffett. You figured
No,
out.
it's more like a modern day, like,
Tax whisperer.
I don't even know who the
The tax whisperer.
I don't even know who the modern magician is, but yeah. And so it's like, okay, but never in my wildest dreams, never at the time was I
that
like,
money was coming to your account.
what? No, I thought it might. I thought I was pretty right. I told you I had a big ego, so you know, I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. It's probably gonna happen. But
yeah, we're gonna go for real.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. And you know, it made all logical sense in my head at the time and everything like that too. So
going hard or going home.
so it was easy to justify. But but never in my wildest dreams did I think that what happened would have happened, that they would have sent me the check and I said, okay, great. You know, like, I put it in my bank. I had money to, you know, it wasn't like the $5 million was life altering.
Right.
It was the fact that I could just do this every year and like never have to worry about money ever again.
Oh, that's a beautiful
And
thing.
I could just like create my own.
You're just writing your own check.
It was like the keys to the printing press.
Yeah, you're writing your own check and the government's paying
Exactly.
All right.
I was like,
So apparently you were wrong.
absolutely.
And there was a day of reckoning.
Nearly dead.
Entirely not expecting.
No.
So let's just put in context what else was going on in your life at the time.
Right.
Let's.
Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to? Okay.
You know,
Yes.
popping the bottles and the models either.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Seth was getting married.
yeah.
Oh,
And he was marrying this lovely woman, and there was a very big, celebration that was planned. This big wedding, hundreds of people were invited, caterers, flowers, a band, everything was all there.
Would have been a fun party.
And while you were supposed to be showing up, I don't know, at the church or wherever this was happening, what was really happening to you?
Yeah, I was wearing like an orange jumpsuit and pants two sizes too small, and yeah, it was bad. I was locked up.
Your fiance was not aware of that, though, was she?
She was, but we were hopeful that it was going to change. You know.
Can I ask? What was the time frame from when the $5 million check hit your account, was posted, to the point where the feds are knocking on the door, however they came and got you?
4 months.
4 months. They work pretty damn fast, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't fuck around. Yeah, no, that part of the thing, they got right. No, for sure. I mean,
you're an interesting guy, and you have, opinions about things, that I often find interesting.
Right.
You didn't really feel that having an attorney was all that important through this.
Oh, here we go. The rabbit hole emerges.
Nobody's going to watch this, right? Nobody's going to see this. I can just talk freely, right? We're just on the yard, right? Like this.
Yeah, we're on the yard, man. We chop it up.
This is not like recorded.
It all goes down on the yard. You know that.
No, I've had these conversations
down in the yard.
For sure. Yeah, no, I part of the Sovereign Citizens handbook, playbook. I think it's play FUBAR.
Heavy emphasis on play.
Yeah, exactly. Is that you cannot, hire an attorney because you will lose your ability to represent yourself, which is legally not true. But at the time, I was like, okay, let's try this and see how it goes. So yeah, I represented myself. In
the same way that if you're having an operation, if you hire a surgeon to do the operation,
no need to bring in a professional. No need to bring in a
your own surgeon, Richard.
I got this.
You become your own surgeon, Richard. At your own operation.
No anesthetic.
That's what I'm saying.
This is going to work out good.
So, do you think that strategy was prudent, or what?
I would. What's the opposite of prudent? What do they say that
idiotic?
The person that represents himself as a fool for a client?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I think that there's so much about the law that is just a whole nother world. It's like, that you can't navigate that process without assistance, and
without more minds on it, right?
Exactly.
If you were Ben Franklin, you could do it, but
exactly.
he's on the $100 bill.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's good reason to get counsel.
So you figured, all right, I'm going to fight this one out on my own. And I'm sure the judge, hearing your case, was sort of stunned by the fact that
he was like, don't do it.
Yeah, they try to talk you out of it.
Oh, absolutely, they fucking do. It's like, yo, I'm warning you.
Looking back, I mean, I was very disrespectful, in the courtroom.
Oh, you mean arrogant?
I mean disrespectful.
Ego-driven?
Like, and it came from a place of ego for sure. But I call the judge by his first name,
Ooh.
and
that hurt.
And the prosecutor and everybody.
My third rib.
I was calling everybody by their, and just kind of like just taking a dump in the courtroom was kind of the whole.
Yeah, you were taking a royal shit.
All right, so you were sentenced to how many years by the Fed?
71 months.
71
which
months, which is 6 years, almost.
Yeah.
But before you went to a federal prison, you went to a county jail, right?
Yeah. So unlike some people on this yard, once I got arrested, I didn't see the light of day. I didn't get bail. I didn't do anything. So my clock started right away. Right.
I didn't get bond.
Yeah. So I was in county jail for a year. And while I was going.
So needless to say, you didn't get the ceremony didn't occur.
Did not.
But your fiance was pregnant, right?
No, Ava was born already. So Ava was
okay, so you already had a daughter who was very young when you went away. So that had to be pretty tough.
That was horrible.
Was that the worst part of the whole thing?
Still is the worst part of the whole thing.
Still is.
Yep.
Yeah, I would imagine that's got to be incredibly painful. Did she ever come? Well, I guess she was too young to really visit you, right?
Yeah, we made a decision in county jail that it's better for her not to. She just didn't know. When I first got down, I remember Shay saying that, we would talk on the phone, and she's like, Ava just cries all night for you, and you're not here. Like, she doesn't want me, she wants you, because we were like, that was
inseparable.
Yeah, it's inseparable. Like she was,
Yeah, I feel your pain, bro.
she still is my little girl, and she always will be. But then it's like freaking, put her in my pocket and let's just go everywhere, type
Yeah,
of
how old
thing.
was she?
She was 2 when I got arrested.
Yeah.
So you are taken to county jail. I gotta believe that when you showed up at county jail, it had to get pretty strange in how the guards reacted to you, even to give you, clothing,
Yeah.
or a cot to sleep on.
Yeah.
And then the inmates, and how they reacted to you. So first, talk about the guards. What was their response to you?
Yeah. So I went and was in Santa Clara County Jail, in the old jail. If there's a new jail and there's an old jail. So I was, of course, in the old jail. It's dirty, dingy. Really, for any wrongdoings that I've done in my life, I feel like I paid for them in that first year of county jail. Like I feel like, okay, we're even now. Like I've done my penance here because this is freaking hell. And getting
What
in.
made it hell?
I mean, you're wearing somebody else's underwear. Like nothing in there is built for a 7-footer. So let's just put that out. I mean, most of the world is not built for 7 feet tall people. There's only 2,800 of us. So it's not, it's not like they plan a lot of.
2,800 people who are 7 feet tall in the world?
Yeah. Yeah, fun facts. 7-footer fun facts.
That is rare.
Yeah. But so nothing fits, nothing does anything, but it is, I mean, so we were in a pod. They call the area that all these pods that I was in, and they call it Hollywood. It is
Hollywood.
I live in LA. Yeah, it is the opposite of fucking Hollywood. But and everybody's got an orange jumpsuit and like gray old pants. And most people, it's so transient in county jails, right? People are coming in and out all the time. Some people, are dealing with drug addictions and things like that.
Mental health.
Yeah, mental health. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's happening there. So you got an old, dirty, dungy prison. You got, transient community, and you got, I mean, and it's every level of crime, right? It's not like, everybody's white collar, everybody's, this, it's it's everybody, and
It's a melting pot of crime. Criminals.
For sure. Yeah. And state, federal,
oh man, the whole shebang.
Why did it take a year for you to go to a prison? Why did it take so long?
Because I was representing myself in court at the same time.
You're a sovereign citizen, damn it. You have the right to represent yourself.
Can't hold me.
For real.
Yeah.
I'm gonna file a habeas corpus and get
they could hold me.
list.
They could hold me, and they did. Uncomfortable for sure.
Jesus. So how did the guards give you a hard time?
So the guards, yeah, no, I think anybody that's been down can freaking relate to this, right? But like, it's like there are good people that are COs, and there are shitty humans that are also.
I can agree with that.
You know what I mean? Like there's both, right? There's just like there is in any part of the world, and so. Some people are just shitty people. You know what I mean? Like that's just what it is. And sometimes they're, they choose to have a path as a CO, but there was, and there was some of that, in county, there was some of that, in the feds too, for sure. But on both sides, there was, there was good guards too. Although I do remember a story, I'll tell you this, that, I'm still in my sovereign citizens, too big for my britches, space, and I get, I'm popping off some legal stuff to one of the guards, and he's a big dude, and he said something, and I said something snarky back, and we're in a pod with like, I don't know, I think there's 35 or 38 people or something like that in this pod, and so these other guys are hearing me talk shit to the CO, so the CO kind of lets me get away with it for a second, and then about 20 minutes later, he goes, Sundberg, to the front, and you got to walk up to the gate, and, I'm like, what's up? He's like, cuff up. So I turn around, put my hands in the gate, and cuss me up. I'm like, I do something snarky, and he's like, get your ass over here. So he puts me in this little cage here, and a couple of other CEOs come in, and they go, "What the fuck is going on with you?" And I go, "I don't understand what you're talking about." He's like, "Look," he's like, "I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but because of your size, if we have to fucking do something to you, there's going to be a lot of us on you." And, he goes, and, like, you're automatically, gonna get into problems with us, and basically to say, like, there's going to be 5 or 6 guys kicking my ass, type of thing. If I pop off. And
did he give you the veiled warning and threat all in one?
Yeah, which was in retrospect was very nice of him to do.
Yeah, to give you before you got it, before you actually got the treatment.
Right, get me out of a spot where I have to fucking be a tough guy and a bunch of
before you got the treatment,
people, like, trying to pop off. So I didn't recognize that what was happening at the time, but, like, it was a point where I was just like, oh, okay, like, I don't think I want to come in here and get jumped by a bunch of COs.
No, who wants that?
I'm trying to live through this.
So, but you ended up in solitary in county jail, right?
Non-county. That was in. That was once I got sentenced.
Okay. Well, we want to talk about that, but Seth, take a deep breath. We're talking with Seth Sundberg, ex-NBA star, who did time for doing battle with the IRS, and now he works with us at Commissary Club and 70 Million Jobs, which we'll talk about. I wanted everybody to be aware of something that's happening next week on Thursday. And if you look in the chat section, Amanda put up links. We partner with Michelle Obama's organization, When We All Vote. And that's an organization that in general is seeking to enfranchise people, to get them to register to vote and to exercise their right to vote. And it's a great organization. It's been very, very effective. And they are particularly interested in reaching out to formerly incarcerated, returning citizens who very typically don't have the right to vote, or it's been taken away, or it was given to them and then they yank it away sort of arbitrarily. And we're working with her on that. So next Thursday at 4 o'clock to 5 p.m. Eastern time, there's going to be a very, very interesting panel discussion talking about the right to vote, particularly regarding the formerly incarcerated. And on the panel, Divine, our very own Divine, will be on the panel, and he'll be telling his story and talking about what the right to vote means to him and to others. There'll also be a woman by the name of Angela Yee, who is a host of the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne the God, which is one of the most popular things, media events, and gets a huge audience. If you click on the link, it gives you the opportunity. There's a form there where one can ask a question that they will address on this panel. So it could be a specific question, of a legal nature, or it could be something a little bit more philosophical or whatever. But please do, number one, click there. Please do, if you have the opportunity, check it out. I can promise you, because I've heard Divine serve on a bunch of panels, and he is just an amazing speaker. Who speaks from his heart passionately and insightfully and eloquently. It's definitely something to find out about and to see. So I think it's going to be an interesting event. So the link, as I say, is on the top of the chat room. So.
And let me jump in on that just a second too, Richard. So one of the things that I want to, everybody that, if you have a criminal record and you are not voting, you should vote. You should get your rights back immediately. the more people that have criminal records that have their rights back, Jeff Grant getting his law license back, all of these things, once we've gone through that system and get out, get your rights back, it's available, figure out how, state specific, agencies like When We All Vote are amazing in what they do, Root and Rebound, all these folks that are helping people get their rights back, get every possible right back that you can. And you got to jump through and you got to go there, but do it.
I mean, I never voted once in my life except last year. And exactly for the reasons that you're saying, that and the fact that I couldn't take another year of Trump, another term of Trump, that for sure played a role. But, the truth is that our population is totally incarcerated. If we did exercise the right to vote, if we were enfranchised, we could elect any president we want.
Absolutely.
We could certainly have any congressman and senator in our congressional district or state, because there's so many of us.
Yep.
1 in 3 American adults have a record. That's a huge block of votes. And yet no candidate really goes out to solicit that vote. It's like we don't exist. The only way they're going to realize we do exist is when we actually exercise our constitutional right, when it's available.
Absolutely.
And advocate for it when it's not. So
absolutely, and all this information that we're talking about too, and then the PSA announcements can be put on the table. But all this information is on Commissary Club. So you have questions about how to vote. What should I do? What's the first step? When We All Vote's information is on the app too. So commissary.club. If you have questions about it, jump on there and
download the app.
You download the app and get your rights.
Exactly. So I mean, for us, there's a lot of issues in criminal justice that need changing. This is one issue that we feel strongly, that we are involved with and have gotten behind, and would love to see change. So, all right, let's get back to you, Seth. You're in county jail for about a year, and it's finally time for them to ship you off to a federal prison, right?
Yep.
You were sent to what level security prison?
Sent to a medium. That's a low medium.
A low medium. All right, a medium is a serious prison.
Yeah, it's double barbed wire fences. The whole controlled movements. There's a whole. It's not.
And there are inmates there who have committed or allegedly committed some serious, often violent crimes.
Yeah, for sure. I went to Latuna. I got sentenced to Latuna. So one of the interesting things before we even get to Latuna was, in the county jail time, one of the hardest things to come to grips with is how just difficult that time is, right? And so and I heard people talking about this in county jail, they were going, oh, once you start getting your big boy bid in, time will go fast. And I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. Yeah, and I'm and they're saying once you get sentenced and get to the yard, then you get into a program and your routine starts and time, you get to pass time. But in county jail, it's terrible. But one of the biggest reliefs, and this is a real twisted thing to think about, but one of the biggest reliefs that I had was actually being sentenced. And okay, at least I know what the fuck is gonna happen. I mean, they were talking about 20 years, and it was all this stuff in the process. And I'm going, fuck, I'm gonna get out. Ava's gonna be 22. Oh shit, But once you get sentenced, you know what you're doing. Then it's you can deal with it. It's that fear of the unknown is. I mean, it rips people up,
Sure.
And so.
That's why I when people ask my advice, I tell them as quickly as you can, go to prison, go to jail if you're going.
Pull the Band-Aid off.
Don't put it off, because the time that you're waiting is often even worse than actually being there. The anticipation and the anxiety is often a lot worse than what the reality is going to be. So you might, if you're sort of in prison and yet you're free, you're not getting any credit for the time. So get credit for it, get the clock ticking. I have found, I'm sure you have, Dee and Seth, that for people who aren't intimately familiar with the criminal justice system, there's sort of this belief that pretty much every correctional facility is kind of the same thing. They're all kind of one. And, that's not true at all.
It's like saying all colleges are the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas
every experience at a college is going to be the same experience at another college.
Right.
The
No, not at
level of
all.
security will have a lot to do with what your experience is, and a lot to do with fear and problems and violence and whatever, certainly. But also the difference between a county jail and a federal prison is like night and day. As you described it, Seth, a jail is so transient, and it has people from, who have done everything, the worst things or marginal things, people who, can't make bond and didn't do anything, and they're there in jail.
I was with a guy that kicked a pigeon, and that's why he was in jail.
So as a result of this transience there, and the fact that there are people in there for drug abuse and mental health issues, it's really like insanity, there. It is so noisy and violent, and the violence doesn't take much. Things are calm, and then like in a blink of an eye, someone looked at someone the wrong way or accidentally bumped into him, and all hell breaks loose. And because it's so transient, there's no like established society that is manifested in prison where people are there for years and they got to get along with each other, basically.
Yeah.
It's a world of difference.
Yep. No, you're right. That lack of like structure, of any sort that you can like kind of manage in county jail is terrible. I mean, like sometimes people ask me what was my favorite part about prison, and it's hard to say that there's a favorite part about it. I mean, I learned a lot from the experience. I feel very grateful for the experience of it, and who I am now because of it, and the things that I had to grapple within myself of it and all that. But like my favorite part about prison was the structure. It's like you're eating at 6 a.m. You get into your program and it's clockwork. You know what I mean? You're trying to get the time moving. You're in the library at this, you're doing your workouts here, you're doing this, you're taking this class, you're eating, you're doing whatever and whatever. I mean, if guys are doing good stuff or bad stuff, whatever it is, like they're in a routine for sure.
Yep. I never slept so well as I've never been a good sleeper. In prison, I became because you have no decisions. You have no, did I do the wrong thing? Should I have done that? I feel guilty about this.
What should I wear tomorrow? I think I'm gonna wear the green khakis. What should I wear tomorrow? I think I'm gonna wear the green khakis.
Yeah,
maybe with my boots. What about Friday? What am I gonna wear on Friday? Maybe the green khakis.
It's a lot of peace, Zen kind of comfort that you can derive from that familiarity.
It definitely takes a while to get there and get through all the shit that you have to go. For the first 6 months I was in county jail, I swear that my phone was still vibrating in my pocket. I could still like feel it, like oh, and I would have these twitches of like my cell phone vibrating in my pocket 6 months after I've been in fucking county jail. I'm like, it's not your phone, buddy. Take it easy.
So you did your 1 year in county knowing that you were going to have another 5 years or so in federal prison, right?
I didn't know that. I mean, the whole reason that I was representing myself and kind of digging into the sovereign stuff was going, okay, I'm either going to get fucking hammered or I'm going free. Like, there's no like middle ground. I knew I wasn't going to take a plea deal. I wasn't going to, negotiate, the sense I'm either getting myself out of here or I'm fucking myself.
How could you have possibly thought that they were going to let you go after you cashed that $5 million check that you claimed? Was there any part of you that really felt like you deserved $5 million?
100% of me. It's not even that I deserved the 5 million. It's that I deserved.
You deserve 10 million, Richard.
Yeah, the number was irrelevant. The point was that I had figured out the system, and I was like, oh, now I know.
They owe me.
You wrote in that the government owes me 5 million. What system?
Yeah, I mean, it was much more intricate and
thought out.
thought out
Yeah,
for sure.
obviously.
And processed beyond that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot to it that had to.
Greatest minds,
Okay.
greatest economic minds got together and came up with this plan.
Yeah, me and Janet Yellen and like a bunch of people. It was great. You know, said, hey, we're gonna figure this thing out.
I forgot the lady's name.
My boy Ben.
All right, so you left. They took you out of county jail. What they do? Put you on a bus that you were shackled.
I went to Dublin and spent 3 months at Dublin, which is a transfer facility. I didn't know where I was going from county. They took me from county once I got sentenced to Dublin, which is like a processing center. And that was pretty shitty because it's a processing center. You talk about Rikers Island earlier, Richard, like, and how shitty that is. There's Victorville. That's also a transfer center. I mean, it's a prison, but there's a transfer center in Victorville too that is also very, very shitty. I mean, I don't know if Victorville doesn't get, I think, as much attention, as Rikers or anything like that, but it is fucking, it's a bad.
Transient also, like a jail.
Yeah, it's bad. And so, but I went to Dublin for 3 months, and then that's where they designated me to Latuna.
Okay. So they transferred you by bus. Is that how you got there?
Yeah.
They put you in shackles.
Oh no, was it bus? I think I might have took Con Air. I took Con Air.
Oh, they flew you there.
I took it too. You're not the only one.
You did that too. I was in a prison in Florida, and then there was a hurricane coming. So they said one day, we're leaving. So they shackled us and put us on the school bus with no air conditioning. It was about 140 degrees in there.
Jesus.
They took us to one prison, and when they got there, we actually saw like the guard knocking on the door. And when they got there to say that they were there, they found out that the prison didn't have any room for us at all. We had to go to a different prison. It was like we thought we had a reservation.
No, we don't want them. We don't want them.
Yeah,
no room at the inn.
Yeah, they said, that's crazy how they used to turn you away. And
yeah, they turned us
be like,
away.
oh, you sure? Like they're like, yo, no room.
They turned us away.
Sleep on the plane.
You're like, so I guess we'll just go home then.
Yeah.
You just let us go.
Hey, I'll handle my accommodation if
you could just unlock these, that'd be great. And I'll be on my way. No problem. We'll be out of your hair.
All right. So you got to prison, and what were the inmates calling you? You had a nickname, right?
Seven.
Yeah.
Very original.
Very original. Have you gotten that nickname all your life?
No, I mean, I didn't get it until prison actually, and I wish I had it before actually. But it was, it's big fella, big Seth, whatever, like big something, and Seven, I think is much more creative, and goes to show the ingenuity that's happening in prison.
So you must have been quite a curiosity to people there.
It's great. I will tell you this about height in prison that most people don't ever like even conceptualize or even think that it's a thing. So out in the world, like everywhere I go, people are like, it's like Godzilla coming into town, right? Like everybody's like, what the fuck is that? And oh my God, and we've been out, right? So, and that's what I was used to. And it's fine. I would do the same thing if I see me walking down the street and be like, how tall are you or whatever it is. And most people, 99% of people are cool. But you go to prison and it's the same people every fucking day. So like after 2 weeks, nobody
go over it. You're like, okay.
Yeah, nobody asked me how tall I was again. And then you get randomly somebody go come in and that's new and like, oh, how tall are you? And I'm like, oh, you're new.
Right. There's like so, new guys.
Did you encounter anybody who sort of resented your fame? That you were a big shot or something, a big NBA player. Now look at
you. And I mean, this, and you do too, D, because you guys are all in the feds. So the feds don't discriminate. And the bigger name you got and the bigger recognition you got, they're coming for you, right? They love that shit. They love, getting the headline, and they feel like
infamous.
Exactly, and it's a deterrent for all these other people that are not going to do the same thing. But once they get their hooks in, you're hit. You know, we
So
know.
what happened to you? You know, that
So I was not. The point of that is I was not the only, you know, quote unquote famous person in the you know, in the yard for sure. I was down with you know, with some NHL guys, NFL guys, you know, movie producers, movie stars. You know, I was down with the guy that George Jung from that the movie Blow was.
Yeah, Blow, my man George. I locked up with him.
Yeah,
Bill.
yeah, and I heard he passed away, I think, a year ago.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't even know that.
So a funny prison story about him, like he never went to the chow hall. He never once was in the chow hall. All the years that I was at La Tuna, like never went to the chow hall at all. And I'm like, how do you eat? You're just eating off the freaking commissary? Like, there's not enough creativity there. Anyways, but yeah, so it was like, so I was when I was in prison, I worked in the kitchen, and I didn't know what the fuck, you know, was going on. And in county jail, you don't have to have a job. You know, in transfer center, you don't have to have a job. In prison, 100% employment. Everybody's working in prison. You know, so they put me in the kitchen when I first got to La Tuna, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to work in the kitchen. You know, so I was in the back washing pans, and I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I said, hey, you know, there was another guy there that played in the NHL, another big dude from Jersey, and good guy. He's still down actually, but him and I was like, all right, I want to work the line. And so him and I are the ones that are serving, you know, 1,100 inmates.
I did that too.
We try to just make it like a fucking shit show. Like we talk shit, everybody would joke, we do this, we try to, you know, get away with giving
everybody a second piece of chicken.
Exactly.
That is like the biggest.
Yo, chicken day was the best day, goddamn.
Traded for a honey bun.
And you really got to see who these people were, because they'd be on this line, and you're you know, at the counter, and you're with your tongs or whatever.
Yeah.
And some guys would approach you very respectfully. Some would be very obsequious, like begging you.
Yeah.
Others would try to assert how tough they were, and you better give it to me. It was like a full range of human kind of
the social experiment inside the social experiment, for sure.
on the chow line. But so talking about chicken, you had an experience in the freezer at the prison, did you not?
I did, yeah. Yeah, so I you know, Tuesdays and Thursdays are chicken days, right? And we go to back freezer, get a bunch of boxes of chicken, start cooking the shit up, and, you know, go from there. So one day I went back there and I pulled down a box, and it's got, like, on the side of the box, this cardboard box just full of chicken, you know, huge box. It says not for human consumption on it. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
Not for human consumption.
I'm like, shit, like I fucked up. And you know, I've been down for a while at this point. I've done some introspection and all that. And it's like, okay, I got it. It's my responsibility. I fucked this up. You know what I mean? Like, cool. But I'm still human. Like, I'm not eating that shit. And I went and I told the CEO, and they're like, just fucking cook it, you know, and I'm like, all right, here, you know, here you guys go. Here's a chicken. Like, and I was on the line telling everybody, I'm like, this shit said not for human consumption. I don't know if you want this. You know what I mean? And the amazing part was, like 90% of the people were like, I don't give a fuck, it's Thursday. You know what I mean? Put the damn chicken on my plate.
It's like, Thursday, it's chicken day. I gotta eat
Thursday, motherfucker. What are you talking about? So
So we've been doing a lot of joking and laughing about your experience, our experiences. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you know, we work together and we do a lot of joking and laughing there, and we know each other and we know these stories, you know, and we've all been to prisons, so, you know, we're not hurting each other's feelings or being insensitive. What though, to take a serious moment, what was the worst part for you being in prison? Was it missing your daughter, or is there anything else? My
heart is still broken over, you know, over that. And I don't think it'll ever, repair. I mean, I love my daughter to death, and we talk, but she's 14 now and she's a teenager, and it's like, she's doing teenager things, but I miss 5 years of her life like that. I can never, never give her back.
Get back. You never get back. Get that back, bro.
So I mean, and there's other serious repercussions from this for my family, and from friends and things like that.
She's your wife.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's all it's tons of stuff that I regret doing it. And I said at the beginning of the episode too, like, I am very grateful for that process and for the opportunity to, like, have done the work that, a lot of our guests talk about, and looked at myself and figured out who the fuck I am and how I want to show up in the world and what I want to do, and et cetera, and things that we just don't have time to do in the world, or just don't put the work in the world. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm never doing that again. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, well, I know that you're not.
I mean,
you often ask guests, you have one question you always ask, and that is, what was the spark? Yeah. What ignited this self-awareness where everything changed? Your whole attitude changed.
Yeah.
What was it for you?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. I was about 2.5 years into my bid. I had spent I think 10 months or 12 months at La Tuna, which is a disciplinary facility. It's fucked up, it's dirty, it's old, it's dingy, it's terrible food. It's a disciplinary facility for COs as well as inmates. It's an old mission in Texas. And it's I think it's the oldest prison in the feds, or one of. And then I had gone from there, I got my points down, went to a camp. And I was at a camp in Mendota, I was in California, I was closer to family, all this stuff. And I was still, 2.5 years in, going, the government's wrong, everybody else is fucked up, I'm right, they're wrong, what the fuck? And I read a book, and I read a lot, to pass the time, and I think I read over 500 books while I was down. And I read a book by Napoleon Hill that, he wrote Think and Grow Rich, which a lot of people have read, right? It's a great book. But he wrote a lesser, well-known book called Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting the Devil, baby. I got it on the bookshelf.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's one of my favorites. And it had a quote in there that hit me like a fucking ton of bricks, as I read it. And I had to like read it again, and like it shifted my whole like dynamic and paradigm that I was working through at that point. And the quote was, "With every tragedy carries with it the seed of an equivalent benefit."
Yes, yes.
And I was like, huh. At first I'm like, that's stupid. And then like another second later, I'm like, well, what if? You know what I mean? I'm like, this is a fucking big tragedy. Like, where I am, what I've done, who I've hurt, you know what I mean? Who I've hurt myself, you know what I mean? Like,
So what was the great opportunity that you were able to access through this tragedy?
Really, it ended up being just full ownership, like just radical ownership of my shit. Going like, okay, if this is, it just started this whole transformational process of going like, everybody out there is fucked up and I am right. And they're going, all right, well, this is a fucking tragedy. And if that's true, then what other things that I think, are untrue, or do I need to look at deeper? What do I think about myself? You know what I mean? Who am I? And, and all these other kind of just questions that just start spinning, and it's fucking hard. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to know the answer to 90% of the shit that I was even asking myself, and, who I was as, and we talked earlier about, being a basketball star and just a sport and athlete in general. And, what is the expectation of an athlete, and specifically, and especially a professional athlete, right? And are those things good qualities that we've presented as what a professional athlete, should be, and how they should act and what they should do and all that. And most of that shit is fucked up, and I never had a chance to look at it.
It's amazing that not only did you look at it, but you brought such honesty and self-awareness to it, which allowed you to be open enough to evolve and change.
Yeah.
So let's do a little lightning round here.
Sure.
D, get ready. Seth, regarding your pre-incarceration days, what was the thing about yourself that you, in retrospect now, like the least? What was the worst part of you?
My selfishness.
Selfishness. D?
My lack of financial literacy.
Really?
What
Your
about you?
lack of financial literacy.
Just not knowing the game.
I could have changed my life in an instant had I had more financial literacy.
I can help you how to file some shit with the IRS and have them send you some checks if you want.
Yeah, 5 million. I make mine 10 million.
Make you 10. You want 10?
Soon the check comes, 4 months ain't gonna find me. I'm out.
Richard's got to answer this question too, but I will tell you this. I don't know how many times I was down for those 5 years that people asked me, show me what you did.
Yes.
I'm like, fuck you. I'm not showing you shit. We're wearing the same clothes, same
exactly.
clothes. I don't
Continuing criminal enterprise.
Fuck out of here. Like, that's crazy.
For me, I most regret the lack of respect in how I treated other people. That I felt so entitled and superior, that people who weren't making a lot of money like me were losers. They're driving a Toyota, shut up,
Right.
You
right.
You
can't even talk.
And that I could be so dismissive and that the rules didn't apply to me. I look back on it and to this day, I'll run into people who used to work for me, and they'll recount a time where, out of my dismissiveness or disrespect, that they remember it. And this is 25 years later. And it obviously hurt them so much that they're still, and they need to get it off their chest, sort of, and I'm embarrassed by it. I'm ashamed of it, and I'm constantly reminded of it. So, I don't think I'll ever get over that, honestly.
Well, I'll tell you this too. I mean, and that's the type of, your awareness and understanding of that is just, a credit to the type of person you are. And I've also, I've told you this before, but it's been a while too. I've met many people that, that worked for you previously that talk about the impact that you had on their life and the things that they learned from you, and the skills that you instilled in them, and all the things, and more than a lot of people in our life. And you've done that with me. You've done that with D. I think you've done that with everybody. In the 4 years that we've been working together, for sure. So I mean, that's you may feel that, and there's we all have forgiveness and stuff to work through with the things of the past, but it's your impact is undeniable, as well.
Thank you. I would suggest that we all have that potential to have that sort of impact, if we can just get rid ourselves of our ego and get to that more pure place. And to me, I feel like I squandered a lot of time, where I could have been a lot greater, that I won't get back. So, what was the funniest thing that happened to you in prison?
So I think I've told this story before, but I'll say it again. So I first get to La Tuna. I've never been to big boy prison, right? Never in my life. Was in county jail, talked to people there about it. But I get to La Tuna the first day, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, first day of college, Dad, type of thing. And I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know what's happening. I got my bedroll here. I got my khakis. And they're walking a bunch of us to the unit we're about to go, and I see this woman start walking towards the line, and I go, this is a co-ed prison. And then it took me about 5 seconds to realize it's not co-ed.
No, not at all.
And if she ain't a prisoner, you know, she's a guard, she's something.
She was wearing the same color. He was wearing the same color khakis as I was.
So I first met Seth. He had been released, and Seth was working on a project. He had devised a power bar that he was looking to market and sell. Prison Bars was the name initially. It became In and Out Bar. Is that right?
It's Inside Out Goodness.
Inside Out. And Seth used to continue to sell those. But I was working at the time at a nonprofit involved with reentry, which is called Defy Ventures, a pretty, fairly prominent in the space. And I was working out of the New York office. And for some reason, I was in California, I think at Google, because we had some big event or something. And there was a group of people, men and women, who were going through the program who were recently released. And they had joined the program because they were looking for community. They were looking for help. They were looking for a support system. They were looking for friendship, whatever, a very natural need that they had. And it was a group, a fairly sort of motley kind of crew, who just showed up sort of. And then there was Seth. And number one, obviously he towered over everybody, but he was wearing a suit and a tie. And keep in mind, this is in Northern California, where no one even wears a suit and a tie for any reason at all.
I didn't know that. I had been gone for 5 years. I what the fuck am I
know that. and there's this incredibly tall guy with this big grin. And he, I always thought it was odd that after you've gone through all of the things you've done, you've traveled the world, you've made a lot of money, you managed people, whatever, still you came out of prison and you needed to belong to something.
Yeah, prison fucked me up. I mean, for sure. It's like it ripped, it was demoralizing, it was embarrassing, it was, I thought, I have zero self-worth, I've done this, I've hurt everybody, I've hurt myself, all this stuff. Like I got out, I lost everything in the process, too. So it was, I came out with nothing. I didn't have anything, to come to. Thank God I had some family and some friends that looked out, for sure. And that was literally my saving grace. But I knew enough to know that I was going to be fucked up mentally, and just going like, I don't know. I didn't remember how to spend money to buy things at the grocery store. Like it's traumatic, it's like being released into the, from the womb into the world, but as a grown
into the wild, man.
Yeah. And like, I don't think that process, there's enough light shown on that, because it's a, mentally, physically, you don't know how to, your world has been one thing for so long now. And, you forget everything else. I didn't know how to use a cell phone when I got out. My sister, bless her heart, got me a cell phone, and, it was a smartphone. And I look at it, I'm like, wow, this is fucking amazing. And I look back up at it and I go, how do I make a phone call? I had a trio when I left, so.
Divine, you've talked about that in your life, and I believe you referred to that as undergoing trauma, right?
Well, absolutely. Without question. I think it's not often talked about, like especially in the Black community. Mental health issues and then trauma. That actually trauma actually is like almost like the origin of some of the mental illnesses that face the Black community and other communities. Yeah, that's not really talked about. But trauma is definitely right at the top of the list that we just don't discuss.
Yeah, there's PTSD. I mean, there's legitimate freaking things that happen in all of this, from the prison system. I mean, that's, it's just undeniable.
How long did it take you, Seth, to, maybe the trauma will remain for the rest of your life in some respect, but how long did it take before you could say, all right, I'm out, I got my feet back on, my head's screwed on, I can get on with my life?
I mean, I think you said it. I think it's still with me. You know, and it's okay. You know what I mean? Now that's the point that I've just come to, going, okay, that's part of my life. That's the way, that's what it was. You know, there was impacts there for sure. And some of them are very clear impacts, and some of them I'm sure have even yet to be seen, you know. But one thing I knew, and the reason why I went through Defy in the first place, is that I knew I needed to be around good people that could basically love me back to life. And I didn't know who that was going to be. I didn't know, you know, who my people were, my tribe, you know what I mean? And I felt alone and scared. And even my family, who I knew loved me, just had no clue about what you know, what I went through and what I was going through at that time, and what the real, you know, like the questions that I had. And it was fucking lonely. So I, you know, being around people that had been through it, people that had helped other people through it, you know, was something I knew would be the best chance for success. And I knew the numbers, you know, I knew that there's a 75% recidivism rate, you know, and I didn't want to be one of the, you know, one of the 3 out of 4 people that went back to prison in the first 5 years of release.
You know, we've talked about this before, but most people who are, when they're released from prison, you know, state, municipal, federal, whatever, they are released under what's called supervised release, which is parole or probation. And they're, you know, whereby they're going to reduce your sentence. Maybe you have to go into a halfway house for a while, but they're going to reduce your sentence just as long as you adhere to their rules. And they're, you know, you got to get a job, you got to get a place to live, you got to do this, you got to do that. You certainly can't break the law or take drugs or drink or a lot of different things. But one of the most painful, onerous responsibilities or rules is that you may not contact, hang out with, talk to, you know, be involved with anybody else who has a record. And as you said, how could your family who didn't go to prison, or your friends, how could they know what you went through? And the answer is they can't, you know, and you're happy that they can't, or they haven't, you know, it's not something you wish on them, but they can't. The people who could, you're not, statutorily, you're denied the opportunity. So it's incredibly lonely first to be let out, particularly if you've done a lot of time, whereby you're used to every decision being made for you, and you're used to a lot of people being around, and then all of a sudden you're pushed out and there's nobody around, and the people who are around, you can't be around, and you're expected to use a cell phone to get a job, to get a home, even though nobody wants to, you know, give you a place to live, and get a job even though nobody wants to hire you, or else you're going back, they're going to throw your ass back in prison. And it's an incredible, it's, you know, the loneliness and the despair that's inevitable. It shouldn't be surprising how high the recidivism rate is, or the homelessness, or the mental health issues, or the unemployment. You know, we set that up.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, one thing that's very interesting about going to prison is there are people, as soon as you get there, looking out for you. You know, you got to be careful. We've talked about that, right? You got to be careful what you do, what you commit to, and all this stuff, and what you accept and what you don't. But right away, there's people that you don't even know that are looking out for you. And then you get out, and it's time, you have all this opportunity, and you have an ability to pretty much do whatever. You get a clean slate to, like, okay, I'm gonna create, you know, life anew. And you can't fucking talk to anybody that's done it. I mean, that's the point of Commissary Club in the first place, you know, is to go, look, there's a fucking path. But yeah, I mean, even going through Defy, I had to get permission from my, you know, my probation officer, and you know, go through that thing, and they were good with it for sure. But
yeah, so it seems to be that the powers that be kind of, you know, they know that they can't prevent someone from going on Facebook and, you know, DMing somebody. It's just the impossibility to police. So that was our rationale in launching Commissary Club, where an online community would be, you know, something where people could gain, you know, they can make connections and get advice and inspiration and company and friendship. and yet not be in jeopardy of screwing up the terms of their release. So that's what we hope to achieve by doing that. Let's see, Paul Rothschild, who's our friend, he said he got his supervision rules amended upon release to say that he could not associate with anyone I know to be committing or planning a crime, but not necessarily people who just have committed a felony in the past. So I guess his point is he tried to get a change and he was successful doing it. And maybe there's a trend of that happening. I don't really know. I haven't heard about that. But yeah, I mean, there's individual cases of everything. It rarely proves the rule, though. They're way too isolated. Seth, before we go, this episode of The Yard will in fact be available to people in prison, that will be able to see a copy of it and download it and watch it. What would be the message to the folks in prison?
Yeah, so use your time and use your time. I mean, in Germany and Finland and Sweden, reentry starts the day that you begin your sentence. It's not like that here, but it can be, but you have to make that choice, right? Study entrepreneurship, study, create your company. You want to create the company that there's things when you get out that are available now, that weren't available previously. There's a lot more opportunity, but you have to do it, and it's there, the system's not going to do it for you inside or outside. So, start now, dig into books, dig into whatever you need, talk to people that are there,
Your reentry should begin the day you enter prison, not the day you leave. D, in closing, anything you'd like to share to folks in prison?
Yeah, man, just anybody that's formerly incarcerated, and anybody that knows anybody that's formerly incarcerated, let them know about Commissary Club. Let them know there's a community of people who are here that have been through the same thing they've been through. We're here to support. We're here to connect. We're here to be this community that just fosters positive and successful reentry. And that's what Commissary Club is all about.
Yes, it is. Pamela Augustine, who I guess is joining us for the first time, she writes, "This was great. Thank you, Pamela. I'm glad you got something out of it. And of course, thank you so much, Seth." And then she goes on to say that she got out of prison in May. So most importantly, Pamela, welcome home. It's great to have you out. Let's connect all the time while you're out and stay out. And Seth, you were great, as I knew you would be, and honest and funny and insightful. And thank you for, I ask every guest, is there anything that's off limits, before we start? Because I don't want to bring up something that they're so sensitive about, and Seth immediately said, nope, my life is an open book and
he said, let's go.
Let's go. Exactly. Let's go.
That's what we do.
Thank you for being so transparent and honest and brave to share some of this shit. And it's wonderful, working with you, and you too, D, and you too, Amanda, and you too, Adrian,
likewise,
and all the other people that we work with. So next week we have some good guests that are coming up, and we've kind of run out of us. So if you like that, we're not going to do it again.
We still have you left.
I was afraid someone was going to say that, but we have some good guests. Please tell other people about us. Please follow us on social media. And there's a link that Amanda put up at the top of the chat that you can follow us on Instagram. So please do that so that you can hear about events that we're involved with, or just events that we're aware of that you might find of interest. But in any event, we really appreciate your coming by again. We'll be back next week again. It's the same bat time, the same bat channel. And let's all look out for each other, because if we don't help each other, God knows nobody else is gonna. So good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Thanks, y'all. Love you guys.
Peace, everybody. Thank you.